From absolutely nothing to a multi-million-dollar farming empire. 5 years, zero shortcuts, pure grinding. I started with $0 in the bank. No land, no equipment. Literally sleeping under the stars. But through strategic investments, smart contracts, and building multiple passive income streams, I transformed into a farming tycoon, with solar farms, production facilities, and operations across the entire map. This is the complete journey. If you have already watched my 2-year video that got 140,000 views, thank you. I have condensed years 1 and 2 into key highlights so you can jump straight to year 3, using the timestamps below. But if you are new here, you are about to see the entire story unfold. Let's dive in. If you watched my previous video covering the first 2 years, feel free to skip to year 3. But if you are new or want a refresh, here are the essential highlights that set up everything that follows. Starting with absolutely nothing meant one option: contract grinding. I took every job I could find: fertilizing, harvesting, stone picking, cultivating. The early days were brutal, but slowly the money started building. My first major milestone? Buying Farmland 54 for $145,000. Followed by my first house so I wouldn't sleep on the grass anymore. Then came my first tractor, the Deutz Fahr AgroStar, for $89,500. That first drive back to the farm hit different. But the real game changer was strategic passive income. I invested in 2 greenhouses, producing lettuce, then expanded to 8 greenhouses total. I bought a stone crusher for nearly $100,000. Controversial at the time, but it paid off by generating income 24/7. I also started livestock with a chicken coop and 360 baby chicks. The key was diversification. Then I purchased Farmland 36 to grow sorghum for chicken instead of buying it from the store. By the end of year 1, I had multiple income streams working: greenhouses, stone crusher, chickens, and contract work. My bank account set at $313,000. Not bad for starting from zero. Year 2 was about scaling what worked. I bought my second tractor and proper hauling equipment. My morning routine became sacred. Check the stone crusher, water the greenhouses, feed the chickens. The big investment? A cement factory for $317,000. Instead of just selling raw stones, I started processing them into cement bags. Combined with expanding to 10 greenhouses total, the passive income was taking up fast. I cleared trees from Farmland 67 and installed 8 solar collectors for $748,000. A massive investment that would generate up to $9,000 per month depending on sunlight. It was scary dropping my balance to $116,000. But I believed in long-term gains. I bought Farmlands 11 and 84 and purchased proper grass equipment, mowers, windrowers, and a baler with automatic wrapper. Silage bales became another major income source, selling for $162,000. Field 36 was harvested for 32,600 liters of barley. And I made another major purchase. I used Harvester for harvest operations. I wrapped year 2 by purchasing 7 more solar collectors, 15 total, and 2 more greenhouses, 10 total, dropping my balance back to $874. Essentially zero again. But the investments were in place. That is the foundation. 2 years of grinding contracts, making smart investments, and building passive income streams that would explode in years 3 to 5. Now let's see where it goes from here. So here is the thing. Being at $0 didn't last long. At all. The moment I woke up in August, it was like Christmas morning. My passive income investments had been working overtime while I was sleeping. And boom! Just under $50,000 sitting pretty in my bank account. This is exactly why we have been grinding so hard on those investments. And guys, this is proof that the strategy is working. But here is where it gets even better. I didn't waste a single second. Time is money in this game, and I had a plan. First priority, straight to the stone crusher. I set those stones to load directly to the cement factory, because this passive income machine needs to keep running 24/7. Second priority? The chickens. And guys, these little money makers were hungry. I jumped into my trusty tractor, loaded up the precious sorghum from the silo, and transported it straight to the chicken coop. Third priority: water run to the greenhouses. These bad boys need to stay running at full capacity, because every hour of downtime is money lost. But then I noticed something. Houston, we have a problem. The cement factory was completely full of stones, which meant any new stones from the stone crusher would just pile up uselessly. You know what I did? I got creative. I placed a stone selling point right in front of the cement factory's loading area. Problem solved. Now, whenever I have excess stones, they get sold automatically, instead of creating a traffic jam. With the infrastructure running smoothly, it was time to get my hands dirty with some serious contract work. Contract number 1. Plowing job on Farmland 32. $2,400 profit after equipment leasing fees. Not bad for getting my AI worker to do the heavy lifting. While my AI was busy plowing away, I spotted an even juicier opportunity. A cultivating job on Farmland 85 worth $6,100. I'm telling you, multitasking is everything in this game. But I was just getting warmed up. The contracts kept rolling in. Cultivating field 19 for $6,800, stone picking on Farmland 65 for $8,000, multiple harvesting jobs, and many more cultivating and sowing contracts. And here is the kicker. By the end of this contract spree, I went from $50,000 to $193,000. Remember last time we were at zero? This comeback is absolutely insane, and it's all thanks to those strategic investments we made earlier, combined with some serious contract grinding. Now, I will have to be honest with you guys. I'm still at the point where I need to rely heavily on contracts, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. My goal is to shift focus toward expanding my farm operations, so I can work independently without depending on contract work. We are not quite there yet, but man, we are making serious progress. August was incredible, but September was about to blow my mind even more. I woke up to check my bank account and I had over $260,000. That is an additional $67,000 generated passively while I was sleeping. Guys, this is why we invest. This is why we grind. This is the power of passive income. Time for the morning routine. Set the stones to sell, check on the chicken, water the greenhouses. But then I noticed something exciting. My grass fields were ready for harvest. Field 86 was looking absolutely perfect for mowing. So I jumped in my tractor and hired an AI worker to handle the mowing, while I multitasked with other contracts. Plowing job on Farmland 16 and stone picking on Farmland 52 that brought in $6,300. This is what I love about this game. You can always be productive on multiple fronts. While my AI worker finished mowing field 86, I sent him over to field 11 to keep the grass harvest going, and hired another AI worker to start windrowing the freshly mowed grass on field 86. Once the windrowing was complete, I switched things up, sent the windrowing AI to field 11, and I personally took my baler to field 86 to create those valuable silage bales. But wait, there is more. The grass on my main farm had grown back again, so I decided to mow it one more time and scored a few extra silage bales. However, I made a strategic decision here. I don't want to turn this into another dedicated grass field. This land is reserved for my main farm operations, just like we decided back in episode 1 when I first purchased it. I transported 13 silage bales to my storage from the main farm grass, while the bales from fields 86 and 11 will be sold next month once they ferment. After finishing the grass work on my main farm, I made a controversial decision. I painted over the tall grass with short grass that won't grow back. My reasoning? In the future, when I have more funds, I'll spend time making it look absolutely beautiful. But right now, functionality trumps aesthetics. But I want your opinion. Drop a comment below. Should I have kept the tall grass for regular mowing, Or do you think the short grass looks better? Or maybe you have completely different ideas for this space. Let me know. With $266,000 burning a hole in my virtual pocket, I spotted an incredible investment opportunity. A shelter with a solar roof. This wasn't just about storage. Though organizing all my equipment in one place is fantastic. This shelter generates anywhere from $0 to just under $6,700 per month in solar energy income. Think about it. Passive income on top of passive income. This is how you build wealth in Farming Simulator 25. I spent the next several minutes arranging everything to be both accessible and visually appealing. Organization isn't just about looking good, it is about efficiency, and efficiency equals profit. After setting up my awesome new solar shelter, I accepted another plowing job on Farmland 79 for $2,700 and hired an AI worker while I focused on my own field. I decided to sow my field with barley. And here is my reasoning. Even though I already have plenty of chicken feed, it is better to be safe than sorry. Purchasing food for chickens is expensive, and if I produce too much, I can always sell the excess crops. It is a win-win situation. After the AI worker finished sowing, I hired another worker to fertilize the field. Why? Because I want to get as close as possible to 100% yield bonus. Every percentage point matters when you're building an empire. After completing more contracts, I had $174,000 in the bank and faced a major decision. I decided to invest in pigs. But honestly guys, I'm second guessing myself here. I need your help. Are pigs actually worth it in Farming Simulator 25? Can I make a real profit from them? This is where your experience and knowledge could save me from a costly mistake. I went all in and spent $164,000 on a large pigsty with a capacity of 275 pigs. I placed it strategically right next to the chicken coop for operational efficiency. But here is the problem. After that massive investment, I only had $10,000 left and couldn't afford the actual pigs. Time for some quick thinking. I loaded up the cement bags that my cement factory had produced and made a beeline for the farmer's market. $25,000 in sales. But I still needed more, so I completed 2 additional contracts to boost my income enough to afford my peak investment. With just $68,000 in the bank, it was peak shopping time. I purchased 95 German Landers for $21,850, 90 Bethlehem Black Pit for $20,700, and 19 Berkshires also for $20,700. Total, 275 pigs, filling my pigsty to capacity. This is my strategy. Before they start reproducing, I plan to sell some of them to make room for the babies. Another question for you experts. Is this a solid strategy, or am I missing something crucial about pig management? I loaded up sorghum in my trailer and transported it to the pigsty. But I have so many questions. What is the best food for pigs? Should I stick with sorghum or invest in specialized pig food from the store? I read on Reddit that pig food type doesn't really matter for profitability. Is that actually true? If you have experience with pig farming in this game, please drop your knowledge in the comments. Your advice could make or break this investment. I am about to attempt something that could make or break this entire challenge. Earning my first $1 million in just 3 months. Will I succeed or will I fall short and have to start over again? Let's find out together. It's October, early morning, and I am staring at a bank balance that should terrify me. Only $84,000. To hit $1 million from here means I need to earn over $916,000 in one episode. The ambition is massive, but here is why I think it is actually possible. My morning routine is now a well-oiled machine, and every minute counts today. First stop, setting the stones to load at the cement factory. This passive income stream has been quietly building wealth while I sleep. Next, I am checking on our livestock investments. The chickens are laying consistently, and our new pigs are already showing promise. Finally, those greenhouse crops need their daily watering. Another passive income stream that is about to pay dividends. But here is the real game changer I've been waiting for. Remember those grass bales I prepared in last month? They have been fermenting into silage, and silage sells for significantly more than regular grass. Time to cash in. I hook up the bale trailer and headed straight to the grass fields, loading up 24 bales per trip, and when I sell this first load, just over $50,000 in one transaction. But I can't get comfortable yet. While that's a great start, I still need over $860,000 to hit my target. The pressure is real. After selling all the silage bales and fertilizing the grass fields for the next cycle, it is time to shift into high gear with contract work. First up, a sunflower harvest on field 77 paying $15,000 after leasing fees. For a single contract, that is huge. I immediately lease the harvester, drive to the field and hire an AI worker because time is everything today. While the AI handles field 77, I spot another opportunity, a cultivating contract on field 91 for $11,600. The contracts are literally popping up faster than I can complete them. When the AI finishes field 77, I collect the sunflowers and earn an additional $11,700 at the selling point. By 10:30 a.m., we are sitting at $276,000. That is almost $200,000 earned in just a few hours, putting us at roughly $1/4 of our $1 million goal. But here is where things get really interesting. The momentum is building. Next contract, another sunflower harvest on field 31 for $7,600. But this time, I don't need to lease the equipment since I already have it. This is how you maximize profit margins. Then comes a mowing contract on field 45 for $5,300, followed by an incredible string of high-paying jobs. Sunflower harvests, soybean work, plowing, cultivating, some of these pushing over $11,000 each. But even after this contract marathon, grinding for hours, my bank balance sits at $417,000. I am not even halfway to $1 million yet, and doubt starts creeping in. Is this goal actually achievable, or am I being too ambitious? There is only one way to find out. Time to sleep and let the passive income work overnight. I wake up in November to a pleasant surprise. $478,000 in the bank. Those overnight investments added $61,000 while I slept. This is why diversifying income streams matter. After my morning routine, I dive back into contracts. A stone picking job for $1,800, a plowing contract for $7,200, then a cotton harvest that initially pays $5,400, but yields an additional $7,700 from leftover cotton. We are now just over $550,000. The contract slowed down to a smaller $2,000 payouts, but every penny counts toward that $1 million target. I also noticed the livestock needed feeding, so I transported barley from the silo to keep the production chains running smoothly. End of month sales pushes to $691,000 after selling cement bags for $29,000 and eggs for another $29,000. We are at $691,000 by the end of November, still over $300,000 short with potentially just 1 month left. The pressure is mounting. December arrives, and this is it, make or break time. I wanted to hit $1 million by January, which means December is my last real shot. Morning contracts provide steady income, but then I noticed something crucial. My grass fields are ready for harvest again. This is where proper timing and farm management become critical. I orchestrate the harvest like a symphony. AI worker mowing field 84 while I set up another worker to windrow behind him. As soon as field 84 is done, the mower moves to field 11. I handle the baling myself because every bale represents potential profit. After more contract grinding, we hit $850,000. Close, but not close enough. It is 3:30 p.m. and I am genuinely worried. That is when I make a crucial decision. Sell the silage bales I have been storing. Sometimes you have to sacrifice long-term storage for short-term goals. First load of 24 bales sells for just over $50,000. The final 4 bills at $8,400. Now we are at $909,000. Less than $100,000 to go. But time is running out. Then, like a miracle, a plowing contract appears for field 77, just under $18,000. I accept immediately and hire a worker. While that is running, a small cultivating contract pops up for $2,000. Every dollar matters now. Despite all this grinding, I still haven't hit that $1,000,000 mark. I have one last strategy. I wait until 11 p.m. for the greenhouses to produce their passive income, the cement factory to complete another batch of cement bags, and the chickens to lay more eggs. This timing is everything. Maximizing every possible income source. I load just 2 pallets of eggs and a few cement bags. First stop, the small farmer's kiosk, where the eggs sell for $10,200. Second stop, the farmer's market for the cement bags, $15,500 for the cement bags. And we did it! Finally, after hours of strategic planning, countless hours of contract work, smart investments in passive income, and perfect timing, we have crossed the $1,000,000 threshold in Farming Simulator 25. But here is the thing about reaching your first million. It's not about having money sitting in the bank. It is about what you do with it next. This $1,000,000 represent endless possibilities, bigger equipment, more land, expanded production facilities, or maybe even starting a completely new operation. I let the wheel decide my $1,000,000 investment, and you are about to see if it was genius or complete madness. We have built quite the operation so far, and now we are at the point where I can make some serious investments. We have 6 options on this wheel: playground maker, canning factory, goats, sheep, solar collectors, bees, and grass fields. I'll need to spin multiple times since some of these won't reach $1,000,000 on their own. Let's see what the wheel chooses for our first investment. And we land on playground maker. Honestly, I have no idea what to expect from this one. But the wheel has spoken. Let's see if this turns out to be a genius or a complete disaster. It is January, and as usual, I had to check on my livestock, cement factory, and greenhouses. But today is special. We are about to make the wheel's first choice, and I am genuinely nervous about this one. I went to purchase the playground maker for $150,000, having absolutely no clue what I was getting myself into. Here is what I discovered. The playground maker produces toy tractors, and it only requires 2 materials: planks and long planks. Since I'm not doing forestry and don't have these materials, I have to buy them from the warehouse. To produce just one toy tractor, you need 18,400 planks and 2,016 long planks. So I went straight to the warehouse and purchased materials for the entire year. $389,500 for 51,000 liters of planks and 13,000 liters of long planks. Since the production doesn't use round numbers like 8,000 liters exactly, I had to purchase an additional 1,000 liters to keep production running smoothly. Altogether, this first wheel investment cost me $539,500. After transporting all the materials to the playground maker, I let the production run. And here is the part that completely shocked me. One toy tractor generates $150,000 and takes 2 months to produce. That's $900,000 in revenue every single year. Take that $900,000 minus our investment of just under $540,000 and we are looking at $360,500 of pure profit from this one production. And this is only because I play on easy mode. On normal or hard difficulty, this would be completely different. But here is the crazy part. In the second year, when the production is paid off and we only need to buy materials, we are looking at $500,000 of pure profit for doing absolutely nothing. The wheel might have just given us the best investment in Farming Simulator 25. Moving on, I sold all the silage bales we made last month and generated $84,000. I think I forgot to fertilize the grass fields, which is why I got fewer silage bales than expected. Either I forgot to fertilize or harvested too early, but lesson learned. This time I won't forget. I hired an AI worker to fertilize field 11 and field 84 immediately. Next, I had to feed the pigs since they were running out of food. And that marks the end of January, with our first wheel chosen investment set and running. Straight to February, I did my morning routine and checked on the playground maker to see how our wheel investment was performing. You can see the stages of the toy tractors being made. And in the bottom right corner, it shows the percentage completion, which is actually pretty cool. With nothing major happening in February, we are jumping to March, where I sold 125 pigs for $92,300. I realized afterward that I made a mistake. I thought they would reproduce the next month and I was making room for baby pigs, but that wasn't the case. Mistakes happen and we learn from them. I could have easily quit and restarted, but that's not the point. If I make a mistake, I'll own it and share it with you so you don't make the same error. 2 months have passed since the playground maker started running, and it finally produced our first toy tractor, generating our first $150,000. The wheel's first choice is already proving to be incredible. After that, I accepted a stone picking contract for $5,500. I also realized another mistake. I was producing cement bags instead of cement bricks in my cement factory. Cement bricks actually generate an additional $1,000 per month. That is $12,000 per year I was losing. So I switched to cement bricks and sold all existing cement bags for $38,800. With the pigs eating more food, field 36 alone couldn't keep up with feeding both chickens and pigs. So I invested in field 37, right above field 36. I also bought grass field 12, and you'll see why it was strategic in just a moment. Time to let the wheel decide our second investment. Let's see what the wheel chooses next. And we get sheep. Interesting choice, wheel. This is going to require some serious preparation since sheep only eat grass or hay. Good thing I just bought that grass field. April arrived and I had to prepare for our wheel's second choice. I went to field 37 to cultivate it and hired an AI worker to plant sorghum, the only crop I can plant at this time that both chickens and pigs can eat. Next, I moved the grass on field 12. Since sheep need grass or hay, I had to buy another baler specifically for grass bales. I only had one for silage bales before. After baling the grass and transporting it to my farm, I executed the wheel's second investment. I spent $97,000 on the sheep barn and another $15,600 on the sheep themselves, including the grass field and new baler. This wheel chosen investment cost me $299,700. 2 investments down, and we are getting closer to that $1 million mark. With the sheep investment complete, I focused on some contract work. A fertilizing contract for field 77 popped up for $9,600, which I couldn't resist. I noticed the pigs had produced a lot of slurry, so I tried buying a slurry tanker to save money on solid fertilizer. But the spreader only held 8,200 liters and would take forever on large fields. The bigger ones required tractors I don't have, so I sold it back and stuck with solid fertilizer. That wrapped up April, with 2 wheel investments running successfully. May started with the usual checks on all productions and livestock. I focused on my grass fields, mowing, windrowing, and baling for silage. I completed 2 contracts and bought 5,000 liters of pig food since the pigs were running low. June brought great news. The pigs finally reproduced. I checked on the sheep, chickens, and all productions to ensure everything was running smoothly. The most important task was harvesting field 36 barley, because the pigs and chickens desperately needed food. I managed to harvest around 32,000 liters of barley. I baled the straw afterward and between contracts sold more silage bales. I finished June just above $1,500,000. We have had great success with the playground maker, and the sheep are settling in nicely. But we need one more investment to reach our $1 million goal. Time for the wheel to make its final decision. And our final investment is Solar collectors. I've actually done this before, so I know they are solid investments. I bought two collectors costing me $187,000, bringing our total investment across all three wheel choices to $1,026,000. We have officially hit our $1 million investment goal. July brought a major decision that had nothing to do with the wheel. I purchased all the remaining grass fields on the map. I'm going all in on silage bales as my own side investment. The rest of July was pure grind mode. I was multi-managing with 3 active contracts almost constantly. One worker harvesting canola, another on peas, a third on spinach, while I transported crops to the selling points. When 6 p.m. hit and contract work ended, I loaded my trailer with cement bricks and sold some to the Grain Elevator Museum for $31,600 and the rest to the farmer's market for $29,000. It is August, early morning, and as usual, my top priority is to check on the productions and the livestock to ensure that everything is running smoothly. After completing my morning checks, I shifted my focus to the grass fields. Last month, I made a massive investment and purchased all grass fields available on the map. There was quite the work ahead of me, but I had a strategic plan that would turn this grass into serious profit. So, I hired an AI worker to start the mowing process on field 35. This is where the efficiency game begins. Once he was done with the mowing on field 35, I sent him to mow field 34 and hired another AI worker to windrow the mowed grass on field 35. I repeated the systematic process for all grass fields, creating a perfectly orchestrated workflow that maximizes productivity while minimizing downtime. While my 2 tractors were being used by AA workers to mow and windrow the grass, I found myself in a predicament. I did not have one more tractor available so that I could go ahead and bale the grass to make silage bales. But here is where I implemented a clever strategy. I accepted 2 contracts. One of them was to harvest the spinach on farmland 49, and the other was to harvest the carrots on farmland 88. But here is the twist. My plan was to harvest the spinach and complete that contract, but I wasn't planning on finishing the carrot harvest. The main reason I accepted this contract was so that I could use the tractor to bale the grass on my fields. This way, I would only pay $600 to use the tractor, but if I went to the store and listed, the cost would be much higher. It is a game-changing hack that saves serious money. Anyway, while all of that coordinated effort was happening, I hired one more worker to harvest the sorghum on field 37, and used the tractor from the spinach harvest to transport the crop to my silo. The logistics were getting complex, but everything was falling into place perfectly. Once I put all the workers to work, it was my turn to start baling the grass on field 44. There is something satisfying about getting your hands dirty while your AI workforce handles the bulk of the operation. When the AI finished the harvest of sorghum on field 37, I transported the crop to my silo and managed to get just under 40,000 liters of sorghum. Next, I spotted the lucrative opportunity and accepted a peas harvest on field 77 for $16,000. I immediately hired a worker to take care of the harvesting and sent every available tractor and trailer to field 77 so that I could transport the crop faster to the selling point. Here is a pro tip. The peas harvester has only 3,700 liters of crop storage, and the trailer gets filled up fast, so you need multiple trailers when doing this type of contract. Preparation is everything in maximizing these profits. With the field harvested and the crops transported to the selling point, I managed to earn an additional $29,300 from the extra crop. The bonus profits from contracts like this are where the real money is made. After that successful run, I accepted several more contracts, including harvesting sorghum, plowing, cultivating, and sowing. The contract grind was paying off, but I knew the real profits were still coming. After the contract grinding session, there wasn't much left to do, so I decided to fast forward straight to September, to see how my investments would pay off. September started as usual with my established morning routine, but I could sense this was going to be a profitable month. I completed my checks and jumped straight into field work with renewed energy. I hired a worker to sow barley on my fields 36 and 37. Once that sowing was finished, I went to the playground maker and the toy tractor production was complete. I earned $150,000 from this single production cycle. These production facilities are absolute goldmines when managed properly. Next, I had to fertilize the field I just sowed with barley. Proper crop care is essential for maximizing yields and profits. Now, here is where livestock management becomes crucial. The 12-month-old pigs I have will reproduce next month, so I needed to make room for new baby pigs. Strategic timing is everything in livestock operations. So I sold 47 pigs that were 12-month-old for $58,750 and 47 pigs that were 3 months old for $16,920. In total, I made $75,670 from this pig sale. The timing couldn't have been more perfect, but here comes the big moment you have been waiting for. The grass bales had fermented into silage, and I went ahead and sold all 148 bales. The result? I earned $311,000. This massive profit demonstrates exactly why investing in all those grass fields was such a smart move. Once that incredible sale was completed, I fertilized the grass fields as well to ensure the next cycle would be even more productive. After that, I completed a few more contracts including fertilizing, plowing, and cultivating to keep the income flowing from multiple sources. With a lot of grass available in my bale storage, I decided it was time to diversify and invest in a new livestock venture. I bought a goat barn for $97,000 and purchased 68 goats for $15,640. I then transported 2 grass bales to the barn to ensure they had enough food to get healthy and start producing. This represents my entry into the goat farming business, which would provide steady long-term income. By the end of this profitable day, I loaded up the cement bricks that the cement factory had produced and sold them at a warehouse for $29,000. Every production facility was contributing to the bottom line. It is October, and we now have 90 brand new baby pigs. And let me tell you, these little money makers have already generated serious profit for our operation. Then I shifted focus to what really drives the cash flow: contracts. Harvesting soybeans, plowing, stone picking, the bread and butter work that keeps the money flowing while our investments grow in the background. But here is where strategy comes in. While my AI workers handled the contract work, I took my tractor to field 36 and 37. These barley fields needed fertilizing. I am pushing these fields closer to that magical 100% yield bonus. Every percentage point means more profit when harvest time comes. The rest of October was all about contracts, cultivating, stone picking, and steadily building our war chest. Not the most exciting month, but sometimes boring months are the most profitable ones. By the end of October, I was pushing closer to the $2.8 million mark. But trust me, things were about to get a lot more interesting. November hit, and immediately I knew this was going to be different. All my grass fields were finally ready for harvest. And in Farming Simulator 25, timing is everything. I jumped into my tractor, attached the mowers, and headed straight to field 35. But here is the thing about grass: it is not a one-man job if you want to do it efficiently. So I hired an AI worker to handle the mowing while I set up the next phase. But I had a problem. I needed another tractor to keep this operation running smoothly. So I made a strategic purchase: the Fiat tractor for $81,750. This tractor packs 180 horsepower, more than enough for our operations, and it is actually reasonably priced for what you get. Plus, I added a front weight attachment for $1,700 because balance isn't just important, it is critical when you are running heavy equipment. The moment the tractor rolled off the lot, it went straight to work baling grass on field 35. No downtime, no sitting around. Every minute that machine isn't working is money lost. While the grass operation was running, I accepted a fertilizing contract worth $4,100. The cement factory had been quietly producing cement bricks, and I had been stockpiling them. One trip to the warehouse later, and I pocketed $29,000. But here is where it gets interesting. The chickens have been laying eggs non-stop, and I had been strategically holding onto every single pellet, waiting for the perfect moment. November is when egg prices peak, and I struck gold. $81,200 from eggs alone. That single sale pushed me over the $3 million mark for the first time. November wasn't just more adventurous, it was more profitable. December started with the usual routine, but I could feel something big coming. The bank account was growing fast, maybe too fast. Because in this game, money sitting in the bank isn't making you more money. I knocked out several cultivation and plowing contracts, each one generating between $4,000 and $5,000. Steady work, steady income. But then it was time for the big payoff from last month's grass operation. Those silage bales from November had been fermenting, and fermented silage is worth serious money. I transported all 147 bales and headed to the farmer's market. The result? $308,000. That pushed me over $3.5 million, and suddenly I had a capital for something I had been planning for months. But first, I handled the maintenance, fertilizing the grass fields to keep that yield bonus climbing toward 100%. In farming, you never stop investing in your existing operations, even when you're planning new ones. After 2 more contracts, it was time. I pulled the trigger on the investment that would change everything. I bought fields 19 and 20. But here is the twist. I'm not growing crops on these fields. I am turning them into forests. Now some of you might think I have lost my mind, but let me explain the strategy. I looked at every piece of forested land on the map, and none of them had the potential I needed. So, instead of settling, I decided to create my own forest from scratch. This required a $27,500 tree planter and 3 saplings. I started with 240 lodgepole pine saplings for $7,000. A test run to see how this would work. But then I ran into a problem that nearly derailed everything. The AI worker settings won't let you plant with less than 4 headlands, and the maximum width is 4.8 meters. But trees need at least 5 meters of space to grow properly. So I had to do it myself. And I picked the absolute worst day possible. It was snowing so hard I could barely see what I was doing. My eyes were burning, visibility was near zero, but I pushed through because that is what separates successful farmers from quitters. I managed to plant around 900 trees before the game hit me with another obstacle. Too many trees, cut some down first. So I've still got space left on field 19 for future expansion. Now, some of you are probably wondering, did I choose the right type of tree? Let me know in the comments what you think, because I believe I made the right call, but I want to hear your opinions. After the tree planting marathon, I did a few more contracts, and then it was time for the final piece of the puzzle. I spent $381,400 on planks and long planks for the playground maker. And this is why the forestry investment is brilliant. Instead of buying all my materials, I am going to cut my own trees, process my own wood, and dramatically increase the profit margin on toy tractor production. It is called vertical integration, and it is about to make us a fortune. With all materials transported to the playground maker, December was complete. My eyes were exhausted from that brutal snowstorm, but the foundation for next year's profits was set. It is January, and you know the drill. I start every morning checking on all my production facilities and making sure my livestock are healthy and well fed. But today is different, because winter has arrived, and that means it's the perfect time to expand our operations in ways you won't believe. Since there is not much field work to do during the winter season, I came up with an ambitious expansion plan. First up, purchasing farmland 65 for $284,000. But that was just the warm-up. Next, I headed over to my solar farm construction site and dropped a whopping $2,337,530 on brand new solar collectors. We are now more than halfway done with this massive solar installation. And let me tell you, this investment is going to pay dividends for years to come. Now, I have to address something that has been driving me absolutely crazy. Those tree decorations scattered around the solar farm land are still there. And despite all the amazing suggestions you have given me in the comments on YouTube and TikTok, I still haven't found a way to remove them. Before wrapping up January, I had one crucial task: making room for new pigs. You see, my 16-month-old pigs are about to reproduce next month, so I needed to sell some of the current stock. I sold 21 pigs from 3 different age groups: 21 that were 3 months old, 21 that were 7 months old, and 21 that were 16 months old. The total earnings? An impressive $57,960. I was genuinely surprised by how profitable this pig operation has become. With January's task complete and winter limiting our field activities, we are jumping straight into February. February kicked off with my usual morning routine, but this time I spent extra time at the pigsty. And for good reason. Those 17-month-old pigs had reproduced, blessing us with 68 brand new piglets. But here is where strategic planning comes in. I knew the 8-month-old pigs would also reproduce next month, so to avoid overcrowding, I sold all 69 of the 17-month-old pigs for $120,750. Talk about starting the month with a bang. Between the pig sales and my passive income generators, I quickly reached $730,700. Time for another major expansion move. I purchased Farmland 77 for $386,700. Now let me share the strategy behind this particular field selection, because every decision I make has a purpose. I immediately grabbed my tractor, attached the planter, and headed straight to field 77 to plant cotton. Here is my logic. My sheep are producing wool, and I want to maximize profitability by processing that wool further. But wool alone won't be enough for the production facility I have in mind. That is why I am adding cotton to the mix. Later, I will reveal which production facilities I choose and share detailed profitability analysis of all the production chains that use wool and cotton. After the worker finished planting field 77, I needed to roll it for maximum yield. Off to the shop I went, purchasing a roller for $46,500. I hired a worker to roll the field and get us closer to that crucial 100% yield bonus. While that worker was busy rolling field 77, a contract appeared: sowing cotton on field 55 for $3,700. Since I already had the planter attached to my other tractor, I accepted the contract and hired a worker to handle it. Efficiency is everything in this business. That concluded our February operations. Now let's dive into March. March began with the usual morning routine and livestock check. The new baby pigs had arrived, which was fantastic news. However, I noticed my goats and sheep were running low on food, so I transported one bale to each barn to ensure continuous feeding. A nearby contract opportunity popped up, sowing field 55 with cotton for $2,400. Being so close to my farm, it was an easy decision to accept and earn some quick cash. Before March ended, my cement factory had been working overtime, producing 12 pallets of cement bricks. That is 12,000 liters total. I sold them at the farmer's market for $56,900. What a fantastic way to close out the month. April arrived and I was thrilled to see we had crossed the $1 million milestone again. All these strategic investments are definitely paying off. The first thing I noticed was that my goats had produced their first 1,000 liters of goat milk. Excellent progress. But then I spotted a devastating mistake I had made, and I was absolutely furious with myself. Last month, I should have sold half of my sheep so they could reproduce this month. But I completely forgot to do it, missing an entire reproduction cycle. I was genuinely mad at myself for this oversight, though at least I'll be getting more wool production to compensate. Despite my frustration, I had to keep moving forward. I jumped into my tractor and headed to field 65 to sow it with corn. I chose corn specifically for my pigs, because someone in the comments mentioned that corn is the optimal pig food. Combined with the barley from my other 2 fields for the chickens, this could create a perfectly balanced feed system. Hopefully, this single field can supply a full year's worth of corn for my pigs. We will definitely find out. While the worker was sowing field 65 with corn, my grass fields had reached perfect maturity for mowing. I hopped into my Fiat tractor, attached the mowers, and headed to field 44, hiring another worker for the mowing operation. Once the mowing was complete, I sent that worker to a different field and hired another worker for windrowing. I had to wait for my Deutz Fahr tractor to become available. The worker needed to finish sowing corn on field 65 first, then I could use the tractor for baling the grass. But first things first, field 65 needed rolling, and that was the immediate priority. Once the worker finished on field 65, I grabbed my tractor, picked up the baler, and headed straight to the grass fields to create silage bales. However, I made a different decision for field 12. Instead of silage bales, I used my basic baler to create regular grass bales. The reason? I only had 5 grass bales remaining in storage, which wouldn't be nearly enough to feed my sheep and goats. After baling field 12, I transported all the grass bales to my farm's bale storage facility. Speaking of storage, I had been collecting straw bales for several years, and they were taking up valuable space with no immediate use. Time to liquidate them. I managed to earn $24,700 from the straw bale sale. My cement factory had produced 3 more pallets of cement bricks, which I sold for $14,200. With just under $1.2 million in the bank, it was time for a major strategic investment. I purchased the spinnery for $180,000. And here is why this is the most profitable production facility for wool and cotton processing. Let me break down the numbers for you. If you choose the rope maker instead, you will actually lose money. You would earn more selling raw wool. To be exact, you would lose $5,700 every single month. But with the spinnery, you earn an additional $7,368 more per month, compared to selling raw wool. You can process the fabric from the spinnery even further into clothes. Though I'm not sure I will go that route yet. It will be more profitable, but it requires significantly more wool and cotton input. I transported the 9 pallets of wool from my ship and configured the spinnery to produce fabric. The production line is now officially operational and generating profits. We are kicking off an early morning in May, with a hefty $1,161,223 sitting pretty in our bank account. As always, my day begins with the sacred routine, checking on the cement factory and our livestock to make sure everything's running smoothly. Our chickens and pigs were demanding breakfast, so I loaded up with sorghum and made the rounds. First up, the chicken coop, then over to the pigsty to keep our profit makers happy and productive. The final morning task? Transporting water to our greenhouses. This might seem minor, but consistent lettuce production depends on it. And in farming, consistency equals cash flow. Now let's check on that spinnery investment from last month. Excellent news! It had produced 1 pallet of fabric. Not earth-shattering, but definitely not bad for our first month of textile production. Time for the main event. Collecting all those silage bales scattered across our grass fields. These beauties have been fermenting patiently, and now it is cash out time. I loaded up 130 silage bales and sold them for a massive $263,000. This is exactly why patience pays in Farming Simulator 25. While the momentum was strong, I tackled fertilizing the grass fields immediately. Why rush? Because getting as close as possible to that magical 100% yield bonus is crucial, and if I leave it for later, I will inevitably forget when juggling other tasks. Perfect timing struck when a fertilizing contract appeared for Field 8. I accepted it and earned just under $4,000. It made complete sense since I was already fertilizing other fields anyway. Then the skies opened up. Rain started falling and continued for the entire day, forcing me to call it quits early. June arrived with the usual morning checklist: cement factory inspection, livestock welfare check, and greenhouse maintenance. With the routine complete, it was time for the main event. Our barley on fields 36 and 37 was finally ready for harvest. Without wasting another second, I hired a worker to handle the harvesting while I focused on strategic planning. Here is where things got dramatic. I transported the fresh barley to my farm's silo, and then disaster struck. I had reached the storage limit. This is the kind of crisis that can paralyze your entire operation. I had 2 choices: purchase a completely separate silo or build an extension to my existing one. I chose option 2 and purchased a silo extension for $60,100 with a capacity of 200,000 liters. This investment allows me to store all the harvested crops needed for our livestock operations. The harvest yielded around 78,000 liters of barley from those two fields, a solid return on our planting investment. Now let's dive deep into something that's been on my mind. The new straw DLC. I have done extensive research and here is my comprehensive breakdown of why I'm passing on this investment. This DLC allows you to create pellets from straw, but the entry requirements are absolutely staggering. To bale straw directly from the field and convert it into pellets, you need a $320,000 Kron Primus 5000 baler. But here is the kicker. This machine requires a tractor with at least 350 horsepower. The cheapest tractor that can handle this job is the Valtra S416. To be fair, you need more than those minimum 350 horsepower anyway, and the Valtra S416 delivers 420 horsepower, but it costs $288,000. I am not looking to spend that kind of money on a tractor, dedicated solely to straw processing, especially when I already own 3 perfectly functional tractors. A fourth tractor serves no purpose in my current operation. There is also another chrome baler that can hold up to 3 bales at the back. This one costs $351,080 and requires a 258 horsepower tractor. If you go the route of baling regular square straw bales first, then processing them separately into pellets, you will still need the specialized baler that converts straw bales to pellets. Plus, you'll need the Kron bale shredder attachment for $31,900. To purchase the building that packs the pellets will cost you $350,000. You can also produce heat with the pellet heat plant, where you can utilize the pellets generated from your straw. Here is my brutally honest take. I haven't tested the system to verify profitability, but the math just doesn't add up for me. You need massive upfront investment and I simply don't see how it generates adequate returns. I need your help here. If you have installed this DLC and actually used the equipment and buildings, please let me know in the comments if it is profitable. As I said, I just don't see the value proposition. Since I decided against the straw pellets production investment, I attached my regular round baler and processed the straw from the harvested fields the traditional way. I will hold these straw bales and sell them when market prices peak. Next, I accepted a harvesting contract on field 43 for a barley harvest, followed by a fertilizing contract on field 40 worth $3,500. The harvesting contract yielded just under 1,200 liters of extra barley, which I transported straight to my newly expanded silo. I also loaded up 22 straw bales and transported them to my bale storage area to await better selling prices. Meanwhile, I noticed the spinnery was running low on wool. I jumped into my tractor, loaded up 4 pallets of wool from our ship operation and transported everything to the spinnery. During this process, the spinnery produced another pallet of fabric. Our textile operation is gaining momentum. The barley fields I just harvested needed plowing, so I stopped by the store and purchased a plow for $50,500. I drove straight back to the 2 fields and hired a worker to handle the plowing efficiently. After that, I accepted a contract to plow field 43 for $2,500 and a contract to harvest spinach on field 61 for $5,700. The spinach harvest was particularly lucrative. I earned an additional $6,100 from extra crops, creating a nice profit boost. While completing contracts, I noticed something that could be my greatest strategic breakthrough if I can execute it properly. I was studying the crop calendar when it hit me. I can plant green beans in June and harvest them between August and November. If they mature by October, I can harvest them and immediately plant barley on those same 2 fields again. I haven't noticed this opportunity until now, and I am absolutely furious with myself for missing it. To be completely honest, I am not entirely sure if this double harvest strategy is possible within the same calendar year. I desperately hope the harvest occurs in the current year, not the following year, because if the harvest delays until next year, I'm in serious trouble since I needed that barley for our animals. The only significant investment required would be purchasing a green bean harvester, which cost around $500,000. But if I can successfully plant green beans and harvest them in the same year, this would be absolutely insane. I'd be doubling the yields from my fields by harvesting twice in a single year. Incredible potential. With the fields properly plowed, I wasted no time and started cultivating immediately. After field 36 was cultivated, I hired a worker to plant the green beans while I focused on cultivating field 37. Once field 36 was planted with green beans and field 37 was cultivated, I sent a worker to plant green beans on field 37 and hired another worker to roll field 36, which was already planted. With the rolling completed on field 36, I hired yet another worker to fertilize the field, maximizing our chances of reaching that 100% yield bonus. Fingers crossed we can harvest these green beans in the same year. With field operations running smoothly, I needed to address our pig situation. Since both the 8-month pigs and 12-month pigs can reproduce next month, I made a strategic decision to sell all the 12-month-old pigs. This made perfect sense. I get more money from the mature 12-month pigs and the 8-month pigs will reproduce next month anyway. I sold 69 pigs and earned $86,250. Pretty decent return. That marked the end of June, and I transitioned straight into July with my standard morning routine. I noticed the 8-month pigs had matured to 9 months and successfully reproduced, giving us baby pigs as expected. I completed my usual checkup on all other animals and production facilities. July brought grass field harvest time. The complete cycle of mowing, windrowing, and baling. This process consumed considerable time to complete all the grass fields, but the investment in time pays dividends. Once the grass harvesting was complete, I returned to the green bean fields and applied the second layer of fertilization for optimal growth. After that, it was contract grinding time. I accepted numerous contracts, some paying out more than $12,000 each. With contracts completed for the day, the spinnery needed more wool, so I handled that restocking. Since I was already at the spinnery, I loaded up the 4 pallets of fabric it had produced and sold everything at the playground for $53,500. The cement factory had also been productive. I sold several pallets of cement bricks at the farmer's market for $42,800. I had 5,200 liters of sorghum remaining and decided to dump it at the pigsty for our pigs, since the corn I planted is still too far from harvest to provide feed. While browsing the store, I noticed a used Massey Ferguson tractor on sale. I took a closer look and discovered I could get a 425 horsepower for only $127,400. The deal was too good to resist, so I purchased it immediately. Now I am thinking back to the straw investment I was debating earlier. With more horsepower available, maybe the economics change. But the decision was already made for this season. However, I'd really like to hear your opinion on that investment. Leave a comment with your thoughts. As always, we kick things off with our morning routine. I'm checking on the cement factory operations, making sure all the animals are happy and healthy, and watering the greenhouses to keep production running smoothly. During my checkups, I noticed something important. The sheep can reproduce next month, and I was determined not to repeat the same mistake from the last time when I completely forgot to make room in the sheep barn for the baby sheep. So here is where my first mistake of the day happens. I decided to sell 34 sheep for $15,300. Seems smart, right? Wrong. I'm a pure genius apparently. Instead of waiting until the end of the day so those sheep could produce more wool before selling them, I sold them early in the morning. The moment I confirmed that sale, I realized my mistake. But the sheep were already gone, and there was no going back. That's $15,000 that could have been more. We learn from our mistakes though, and I definitely learned from this one. Now, as we discussed previously, some of you mentioned that I should focus on contracts above $10,000. And I completely agree with that strategy. Right on cue, a plowing job popped up for $14,200, and I had to accept it immediately. This was a hands-off job since I hired a worker to take care of all the plowing. As of right now, we'll only be doing contracts that are above $10,000, but sooner or later we won't be doing contracts at all. Once our farm grows a little bit more and we have our own operations generating consistent income. With that contract job running in the background, it was time to pick up all the silage bales from the grass fields and sell them to the farmer's market, where I managed to earn some solid profit. Once I sold all those silage bales, another lucrative contract appeared. This time, it was to harvest canola on field 76 for just under $16,000. This was also a no-brainer. I accepted it immediately and started working on it right away, by hiring a worker to harvest the canola while I waited nearby to transport it to the selling point. In the meantime, I also fertilized the grass fields to keep them productive for the next cutting cycle. Here is the bonus from that canola harvest contract. I ended up getting an extra 5,000 liters of canola, which I didn't sell. Instead, I transported all of it directly to my pigs, since they needed food anyway. The spinnery was starting to run dangerously low on wool, so I handled that run as well. I transported 3 pallets of wool to the spinnery to ensure that the production keeps running without any interruptions. Next up, I transported 2 grass bales to each barn. One batch went to the goats and another went to the sheep, to keep them well fed. Now, my chickens were getting old. I noticed they could reproduce next month, and I wanted to make absolutely sure that I get young chickens before the old ones die off. So I went ahead and sold 180 chickens that were 42 months old for only $3,600. Yeah, not exactly a fortune, but hey, a little bit of money entered our bank account, and that's better than nothing. And that was it for August. Time flies when you're running a farming empire. Straight into September, I did my usual checkups and made an exciting discovery. We got a brand new baby sheep and baby chicks as well. The farm family is growing. Unfortunately, the spinnery ran out completely of wool, so I decided to shut it down for a little bit while I accumulated more wool from the sheep. No point in running it empty. The chickens and the pigs were both requiring food, so I made sure I got that out of the way before I forgot about it and caused problems down the line. After handling the feeding, I completed another plowing job for $17,800. These contracts are really adding up. By this time, the sheep had produced 2 pallets of wool, so I immediately transported them to the spinnery and activated the production of fabric. We are back in business. And now, this is where things get really interesting. It was time for a massive and expensive farm expansion. First on my list was purchasing a corn header so that I can harvest the corn next month. I dropped $108,000 on that corn header. It's a big investment, but absolutely necessary. That purchase summed up September. The corn header was the only major expense of the month, since I wanted to see how things would develop in October before making any more big decisions. October finally arrived. I did my usual morning routine with all the checkups, but I couldn't wait any longer. I had to see if my double harvest strategy from last season actually worked. I immediately opened the map to check if the green beans were ready for harvest. And guess what? They were actually ready. I couldn't believe I had pulled this off successfully. But then, reality hit me like a ton of bricks. Even though you can plant green beans in June and harvest them in October, when you plant barley in October, it will be ready for harvest in July. This means you'll miss 1 full year to double harvest the field. However, it is manageable to do it every other year, which is still pretty good and profitable. Without further delay, since the green beans were ready for harvest, I went straight to the store and purchased the green bean harvester for just under $500,000. That's right, $490-something thousand. But I didn't stop there. The cotton was also ready for harvest, and since I was already at the store spending money, I went all in. I purchased a cotton harvester for $485,000, a truck for $51,700, and a cotton trailer for $46,000. With over $1 million spent on brand new equipment in a single session, it was time to put all of this machinery to work and start earning that money back. I hired a worker to take care of harvesting the green beans on field 36 and 37. While that worker was handling the green beans, I hired another worker to harvest the corn on field 65, which is conveniently located right next to my farm. The corn is specifically designated to feed the pigs for an entire year. That's my plan anyway. We'll see if it's actually enough and how much corn we managed to harvest in the first place. With those 2 workers busy harvesting their respective fields, it was time for me to fire up the cotton harvester and start the harvesting operation on field 77 as well. But I didn't stop there. I finally put the Massey Ferguson tractor to good use. You know, the one I bought last season and barely touched? I attached the mowers and set that worker to farmland 84 to mow the grass. Once the mowing was finished on that field, I hired another worker to windrow the grass with my Fiat tractor, while simultaneously a different worker was mowing a different grass field at the same time. Multiple operations running simultaneously. This is what efficiency looks like. With the corn finally harvested, I transported everything to my silo. The final count? 59,800 liters of corn. I believe this should be enough to feed the pigs for a full year, but we will monitor it closely. The worker on field 36 also finished with the green bean harvest, so I transported the first trailer load to the farmer's market. The result? I earned $51,600 for 22,500 liters of green beans. Not bad at all for a first load. The worker on field 77 finished with the cotton harvest as well, so I transported 3 bales of cotton to the spinnery and activated it to produce fabric from cotton. Now we have 2 different fabric production methods running. With field 36 completely harvested and all the green beans sold, I went ahead and hired another worker to plow this field to prep it for the next sowing, which will be barley, of course. With all the grass fields mowed, I personally took over the Massey Ferguson, attached the baler and started baling all the windrowed grass across all the fields to make silage bales for sale. Here is the big number you have been waiting for. From fields 36 and 37 combined, I earned $131,100 from the green beans alone. These numbers tell me that I will repay my green bean harvester investment in about 8 years if I only work these 2 fields, considering the green beans harvest happens every other year. However, I have something else planned that is going to accelerate that payback period significantly. Stay tuned. With field 36 plowed and ready, I attached the cultivator seeder combo on the back and the seed tank on the front of my tractor. Then I hired a worker to sow barley on this field, and also on field 37 right after that. After setting up that operation, I noticed the slurry tank was completely filled at my pigsty. This gave me an idea for another investment. I purchased a slurry tanker for $60,500 and a slurry distributor for $69,500. This investment set me back $130,000 total. For those who don't know, slurry tankers are used to fertilize fields with slurry, instead of buying commercial fertilizer. It is essentially free fertilizer from the pigs. So I loaded up the slurry tanker with slurry from the pigsty and drove straight to field 36 to fertilize it immediately. Here is where I encountered an issue. This slurry tanker can hold up to 20,000 liters of slurry, which was not enough to fertilize the entire field. I had to drive all the way back to the pigsty to load it up again and return to the field to finish the fertilizing job. This wasn't really what I expected or wanted. However, I have decided to keep this slurry tanker specifically for fertilizing the smaller fields, and I will continue using the solid fertilizer spreader for the large fields where efficiency matters more. With fields 36 and 37 both fertilized, I went back to my farm and transported all of the corn from my silo directly to the pigsty. I wanted to do this all at once, so I wouldn't have to transport it bit by bit throughout the year. Now I know for certain they have food for the entire year ahead. And now, here comes the really big farm expansion. This is where things get serious. I purchased farmlands, 59, 60, 62 and 61. All 4 of them. My original plan was to sow barley on all those fields because at that time I wasn't aware that the barley takes 9 full months to grow and be ready for harvest. I thought I would harvest it in June, immediately plant green beans and basically print money. Well, that's not the case, and the comment I saw explaining this timing issue came in way too late. I had already committed to the plan. However, I still went ahead and sowed barley on all those fields anyway. If I can't plant green beans this year, I will plant them next year. And with that massive amount of barley we are going to harvest, I will figure out something productive to do with it. But I definitely won't be selling it. I have something specific on my mind, but it's too early to reveal that plan right away. Also, I bought farmland 76 and sow it with barley as well. We are going to have way too much barley by the looks of it. Next, I hired a worker to plow field 65 so that I can get it ready for the next corn harvest when the time comes around. All the fields sown with barley needed rolling to increase yield, so I set a worker to take care of that as well. Oh, and here's something ridiculous that happened. I hired a worker to plow field 77, the one that previously had cotton. But somehow, this genius worker managed to run the messy Ferguson completely out of fuel. Just perfect. What am I even supposed to do now? I tried to reset the tractor back to the shop, and when I got in it, it actually had just a tiny bit of fuel remaining. Just enough so I could drive it to the gas station to fuel it up properly. I still cannot believe how this worker finished with the plowing but then ran out of fuel. The timing was incredible. Next on my agenda, I needed to sell some pigs to make room for new ones that will be born soon. I went ahead and sold 69 pigs that were 12 months old for $86,250. That's solid money. The 8-month-old pigs will be 9 months old next month, and they will reproduce then. After that, I sold the cement bricks that the cement factory had produced. I took them to the farmer's market and earned $42,800. With all that new equipment purchased throughout this episode, I didn't have adequate space to store everything properly. So I decided to purchase an additional shed for $42,500. This one came with solar panels on the roof, which looks fantastic. I am actually not sure if you get passive income from these solar panels on the shed. If you know the answer to this, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to find out if this generates extra income or if it is just aesthetic. I went ahead and parked all the vehicles in there, and now everything looks so much better and cleaner. Organization matters. Additionally, I purchased a stainless steel fertilizer tanker for $23,500. The reason? So I don't have to make a trip all the way to the dealership whenever I need fertilizer. This simple investment saves me a tremendous amount of time over the course of a season. And to finish things off strong, the goats produced 6 pallets of goat milk, and I sold all that goat milk to the dairy for $41,900. Another solid profit to end the month. After my morning checks, it was time for the first big job. Putting the second layer of fertilizer on all the barley fields. This is where something we bought last episode really helped us out. Remember that fertilizer tanker we got? This thing is amazing. Instead of driving all the way back to the store to refill the spreader over and over again, I can now fill it up right here on the farm in just a few seconds. No more wasting time driving back and forth. Next up, getting field 65 ready for planting corn in April. This field is really important because this corn feeds all our pigs for the whole year. That's a lot of corn. I got on the cultivator and started getting the dirt ready. While I was doing that, I also worked on field 77 to get it ready for cotton. Cotton is really important now because we need it for the spinnery, so we need to grow as much as we can. After preparing the fields, it was time to do one of my favorite things: make money. I had a huge pile of silage bales ready to sell, and the prices were looking really good. I loaded everything up and drove to the selling place. When I sold them all, I made $310,800. That's a lot of money. Now, I really needed to fix a problem I'd been dealing with for way too long. I needed a bigger trailer, especially because I have that big semi-truck with nothing to pull. So I went to the store and bought a flatbed trailer for $15,000. Not super expensive, but this trailer was about to help me make a lot of money right away. Here's where things get really cool. I've been planning something smart with our eggs, and it was finally time to see it work. For months, I've been saving every single egg our chickens made. I didn't sell any of them. Why? Because egg prices are highest in November, and I wanted to wait for the best price. I loaded up the new flatbed trailer with 19 pallets of eggs and drove straight to the farmer's market. This was one of the most exciting sales I've made. The total? $81,600. Just from eggs. This is what good planning looks like. Know when prices are best, wait for the right time, and then make your money. With November almost over, there was one more thing to do: take care of our pigs. I needed to sell the 9-month-old pigs to make room for new baby pigs next month. The sale gave me $64,600, which is always a nice way to end the month. And that was it for November. December came and I did my usual morning checks: cement factory, animals, greenhouses. Everything was working perfectly. But when I checked on the pigs, I got a nice surprise. We had new baby pigs. Everything worked exactly right, and these little guys will make us money in a few months. Remember all that straw I saved from the summer? Well, December is when straw sells for the most money all year, and I had 22 bales ready to sell. I loaded them up and sold them for $34,700. Not bad at all for something we made months ago and just kept stored. Again, it's all about knowing when to sell. I also sold the cement bricks that the factory made, which gave me another $29,000. Now we get to one of the most expensive but most awesome parts of our farm: the playground maker. Every December I need to buy enough materials for the whole year. The trees we planted before aren't big enough yet, so for now we have to buy them. I went to the warehouse and bought 12 pallets of long planks and 50 pallets of regular planks. Total cost? A huge $380,000. Yeah, I know, that's a ton of money, and I bet some of you think I'm crazy. But let me explain why this is actually smart. The playground maker makes one toy tractor every 2 months. Each toy tractor sells for $150,000. Over a whole year, that's 6 toy tractors, which means $900,000. So we spent $380,000 to make $900,000. That's a profit of $520,000 every year just from this one building. And the best part, when our trees finally grow big enough and we can make our own planks, we won't have to spend that $380,000 anymore. Almost all profit. I loaded up the flatbed trailer and made about 2 trips to move all the materials to the playground maker. All set for the year. While I was moving stuff around, I noticed the spinnery was running out of wool and would stop making fabric soon if I didn't help. Can't let that happen. I moved several pallets of wool over to keep it making fabric. The spinnery makes us so much money, so keeping it running is really important. And that was the end of December. January started and I did my morning routine like always. Cement factory, animals, greenhouses. Same thing every day, but it has to be done. When I checked the animals, I noticed something interesting. The 21-month-old sheep could have babies next month. Usually, I'd make room in the barn for baby sheep, but I decided to wait. Let me tell you why. I have 34 sheep that are 21 months old and they are making wool. Right now, wool is super important for the spinnery. The fabric makes too much money to stop making it. So here's my plan. I'm going to keep all the older sheep so they keep making wool for me while the younger sheep grow up. Once the young sheep are old enough to make wool and have babies, then I'll sell the older sheep. It's all about making the most money at the right time. January was pretty quiet. It was snowing a lot and there wasn't much I could do outside. Perfect weather for thinking and planning. But then February came and I knew I had to move fast. The weather said more snow was coming and I had important planting to do before that happened. Time to get busy. I didn't waste any time. I jumped right into the Massey Ferguson, hooked up the planter and drove straight to field 77 to plant cotton. This crop is super important for keeping our spinnery full of materials. I hired a worker to do the planting so I could do other things at the same time. While he was working, I decided to check on something I had been curious about for weeks. Our forest. I was really excited to see the forest. It had been so long since anything changed, and I was starting to wonder if something was wrong. When I got to the forest, I couldn't believe what I saw. There was an update. The trees were growing. The trees had grown to 11.6 meters tall. They are not fully grown yet, but after months of seeing nothing happen, this was really exciting. When these trees get big enough, we'll be able to cut our own wood and save a lot of money on the playground maker. Back at field 77, the worker finished planting the cotton. But when I looked at how much cotton we made last year, I saw a problem. The cotton from just field 77 wasn't enough to keep the spinnery running all the time. We were missing out on money. I needed to grow more cotton, which meant I needed more land. So I made a big decision. I bought field 24 for almost $570,000. Yes, that's more than $500,000 for one field. It's a huge amount of money, but when I did the math on how much more fabric we'd make with double the cotton, it was worth it. But there was a problem. The field was plowed but not ready for planting. I couldn't plant cotton until I fixed that. I got on the cultivator and did it myself. Once the field was ready, I hired a worker to plant the cotton. No need to do everything by myself when workers can help. With the cotton planted on field 77, I wasn't finished yet. I wanted to get as much cotton as possible from these fields, which meant rolling them to get a bigger harvest. I hired a worker to roll field 77, getting us closer to that perfect 100% harvest bonus. When you spend this much money on cotton, every little bit extra helps. After the rolling was done, it was time to add fertilizer. Another worker hired, another job done. This is how you run a farm the smart way. Meanwhile, back at the animal barns, the goats and sheep needed food. I had been moving grass bales from storage using the bale trailer, but it was taking a long time and was pretty annoying. I thought I had a great idea. I went to the store and bought a bale loader that goes on the front of the tractor. It can hold 2 bales at once, and I thought this would be way faster. Spoiler alert, I was really wrong. I spent way too much time trying to line up the bales correctly to load them onto this thing. Maybe I'm just not good at it, maybe the game was being weird, but I could not make it work well. Finally, I gave up and went back to loading bales with the trailer, like I always did. Sometimes the simple way is the best way. Lesson learned. I also moved 3 bales of wool to the spinnery to keep it making fabric, and that was the end of February. March started with my normal morning routine, but it began with something really nice. Time to sell the oldest pigs. I sold them for $86,250. That is an awesome way to start any day, and it made room in the pens for new pigs. But I also made a really annoying mistake. Again, I forgot to give the chickens food on time, and they completely ran out. The food level went all the way to 0. This has happened before, and I am really mad at myself for letting it happen again. The chickens weren't making eggs without food, which means I was losing money every hour. I quickly moved barley to the coop to get them making eggs again. I need to remember to check the chicken food more often. Moving on, I put a second round of fertilizer on both cotton fields. With the new field 24, we now had way more cotton to take care of, but the extra money we'll make is worth it. And then came the huge moment, the really big moment. I decided it was time to make our farm way bigger. Not just one field, not 2 fields. I'm talking about buying a lot of land all at once. I bought fields 51, 52, 40, 41, 49, and 50. 6 fields in one day. Total cost? $785,000. But here's why I did it. We've gotten to a point where we have all the buildings, equipments, and factories to handle growing a lot more. The spinnery needs materials, the animals need food, and we need more crops to keep growing bigger. Of course, buying the fields was just the first step. Now I had to get them all ready for planting. Field 40 needed plowing, so I hired a worker to do that. Fields 41, 49, and 50 needed cultivating. Unfortunately, I couldn't hire a worker with my cultivator, so I had to do all 3 fields myself. It took a while, but by the end of March, all 6 new fields were ready for planting. The big expansion was done. April came and I went straight into my morning routine before doing the most important job of the month, planting corn on field 65. This isn't just regular corn. This corn feeds all our pigs for the entire year. If I mess this up or if we don't grow enough, we'll have to buy pig food from the store, and that would cost us way too much money. After it was planted, I hired a worker to roll the field to help us grow more corn. Then I hired another worker to put on the first fertilizer. This corn is too important to make any mistakes. With the corn safely planted, it was time to use those 6 new fields we just bought. I decided to plant green beans on all of them. Green beans are going to make us a huge amount of money when we harvest them. But here is the really smart part. After we harvest the green beans, we'll still have time to plant barley on those same fields before winter. We are talking about growing 2 crops on the same fields in the same year. 2 harvests, 2 ways to make money from the same land. While the workers were planting, I noticed the grass fields were ready for mowing. I attached the mowers to the Massey Ferguson and hired a worker to start cutting field 84. When he finished there, I sent him to another grass field while hiring another worker to windrow the cut grass on field 84. With the windrowing done, I did the baling myself to make silage. But I left fields 34 and 35 for something different. Instead of making silage from those fields, I baled them normally to make regular grass bales. Why? Because I only had 3 grass bales left in the storage, and the goats and sheep need those for food. After all the baling was done, I moved all the grass bales back to the farm storage. Final count, 9 grass bales. That might not sound like a lot, but it's enough to keep the goats and sheep fed for several months. Good planning means always making sure you never run out of the important stuff. Now, it was time for one of the most exciting parts of the whole episode. Remember all the fabric the spinnery had been making for months? I had been saving it all up, waiting for the right time and the right prices. That time was now. I loaded up 24 pallets of fabric onto my truck and trailer. This was a huge load, and I wasn't going to sell it all to one place. I wanted to make the most money by going to different selling spots. First stop, the playground. Sold some pallets there. Next, the wagon builder, where I sold a few more. Finally, I took what was left to the warehouse to finish the sale. When everything was sold, the fabric alone made me about $350,000. Absolutely amazing. This is why the spinnery has been such a good investment. It just keeps making us money. But I wasn't done yet. I still had other stuff to sell. I loaded up 12 pallets of cement bricks from the factory and 9 pallets of goat milk that had been building up. Time to turn everything into money. The cement bricks sold for $58,700, which was pretty good. The goat milk sold for an awesome $72,600. When I added up all the money from everything I sold that day, we made almost $533,000. $500,000 in one day. That's the power of having lots of different buildings all working together. Before the day ended, I noticed the goats could have babies next month. I had 68 goats and I decided to sell half of them, which gave me $17,850. Now, I know what you're thinking. Won't we get less milk? Yes, we will for a little while, but this is important for later. By selling the older goats now and letting the ones left have babies, we'll slowly replace the old goats with younger, healthier ones. Less milk now means more milk later. It's May, early morning, and I am looking at just over $3 million in the bank. Sounds good, right? But what's coming is going to test every dollar of it. The day started like any other. My morning routine was already becoming second nature, checking the cement factory to make sure production was running smoothly, visiting animals to ensure they had everything they needed, and hauling water out to the greenhouses. It's tedious work, but it's the foundation that keeps everything else running. Then I noticed something. The spinnery was dangerously close to running out of wool. If that happened, production would stop completely. So I grabbed 3 pallets that the ship had produced and transported them over. Next on my agenda was selling those silage bales that had been fermenting out on the grass fields. But here is where things got interesting, and honestly a bit frustrating. You know that feeling when you're transporting bales with a trailer and you manage to load up 24 bales perfectly, but there's just one left sitting on the field with absolutely no room for it, and you realize you have to make an entire trip back just for that silage bale? Yeah, super annoying. Someone in the comments from previous video had suggested a solution. Attach a front bale loader to my tractor and just grab any leftover bales right then and there. Seemed pretty reasonable, right? A smart solution to an annoying problem. Well, not for me apparently. I spent way too much time, and I mean way too much time, trying to line up those bales perfectly with the loader. It was incredibly frustrating. The bales would roll, or I'd be at the wrong angle, or I'd pick one and knock another one over. It was a disaster. Honestly, it was far more annoying than just making a second trip for one bale. Maybe it is a skill issue on my part. Maybe I just couldn't get the hang of it. But I couldn't take it anymore. I saw the thing immediately and went back to the old method. Just transporting the bales with the trailer and accepting my fate if I had to make a second trip. Anyway, despite that little detour, I managed to sell all the silage bales and earned $283,000. After that, it was time to apply the second layer of fertilizer on field 65, which I had planted with corn earlier. I also needed to fertilize all the grass fields to keep them healthy and productive. And that was May. Nothing too flashy, nothing too exciting. Just the necessary work that keeps a farm running. But I had this feeling in the back of my mind that something big was on the horizon. June arrived, and after my usual morning routine, I headed straight to the store. I knew what was coming, and I needed to prepare. I needed more equipment, serious equipment, for what was about to be the biggest challenge I'd faced so far. First purchase, a semi-trailer that could hold massive amounts of grain, $95,000. Second, a John Deere S7 harvester. This beast cost me $381,000. Then I grabbed a header for it, $135,000, and a header trailer to transport it, $19,500. And just like that, in a matter of minutes, I had spent $630,500 on brand new equipment. You might be thinking, that's insane, why would you spend that much? Here is why. Next month, in July, I was about to face the biggest harvest I had ever attempted in this entire series. The barley we planted way back in October was finally ready, and we didn't plant just a little bit of barley. We planted a lot of barley. Fields and fields of it. The pressure was on. With the new equipment purchased, I spent the rest of June organizing everything. And I mean everything. Every vehicle needed to be positioned perfectly. Every piece of equipment needed to be exactly where it would be most efficient. I drove the Fendt harvester out to field 59, positioning it so that when July hit, I could hire a worker and start harvesting immediately. No delays, no wasted time. Then I moved both Deutz-Fahr tractors near fields 59, 60, 61 and 62. They needed to be ready to go the moment the harvester's grain tank filled up, so we could transport that grain to the silo without any downtime. Next, I drove the semi-truck with the brand new trailer out to field 76, along with the new John Deere harvester. Field 76 was absolutely massive, and we needed the best equipment to harvest it efficiently. The John Deere was perfect for the job. But then, reality hit me like a brick. This was going to be a huge harvest, and I had a serious problem. The grain silo on my farm was small, way too small. There was absolutely no way it could hold all that barley we were about to harvest. If I didn't find a solution fast, all that work, all that investment would be for nothing. I needed more storage, fast. So I came up with a plan. I purchased farmland 74 for $102,000. This piece of land was completely covered in trees, which meant I'd have to clear it before I could do anything with it. But it was perfect for what I had in mind. I grabbed the winch from the store for $8,500 and got straight to work. Tree by tree, I cut them down, attach them to the winch and hold them to the selling point. I didn't have time to properly process them into logs or wood chips. The harvest was coming and I needed to move fast. But even selling the trees whole like that brought in serious money. At one point, while I was transporting a tree, the AI traffic actually helped me out. I'm not kidding. A car got behind me and started pushing the tree from behind. Look at this! My tractor's maximum speed is 42 km per hour, and we are hitting 60 km per hour. Even the game wanted to help me out. It was hilarious. I kept working, cutting down every single tree that stood in my way. When I was done, I had earned $113,700 from selling the trees. Basically, the land purchase was free, and I even made extra money on top of that. You really can't complain about it. But the job wasn't finished. The stumps were still there, scattered all over the land. So I went back to the store, bought a mulcher for $89,500, and cleared out every last stump. Now the land was perfectly smooth and ready. There was still a small shed on the property, so I sold that too. And finally, the land was completely cleared for my master plan. But before I revealed what that plan was, I noticed something back at the farm. My 9-month-old chickens were about to reach reproductive age next month, which was the perfect time to sell off the old 52-month-old chickens. I needed to cycle them out to avoid them dying or stopping egg production altogether. I sold the old chickens for $3,600. Not a huge amount, but still worth doing. And now, it was time to execute my master plan. I purchased a massive grain silo and placed it on the land I had just cleared. This thing cost $147,000, but it could hold up to 800,000 liters of grain. I was betting everything that this would be enough for the barley harvest. I even added some asphalt around the silo to make loading and unloading easier. June was done. Everything was in position. The equipment was ready. The storage was ready. Now, we just had to survive July. July came and there was no time to waste. The Fiat tractor was the only one back at my main farm, so I jumped in it and rushed through my morning routine as fast as humanly possible. Quick check on the cement factory? Good. Animals? Good. Water to the greenhouses? Done. I even transported wool to the spinnery in record time. Everything that could wait would wait, because the barley harvest was about to begin. I got into the Fendt harvester, hired a worker immediately, and started harvesting field 59. This was just the first field. We had so much more to go. Then I hired another worker to start on field 76 with a John Deere harvester. The difference between the two harvesters was night and day. The John Deere had a much bigger grain tank and a header that was 13.7 meters long. An absolute beast for tackling a massive field like 76. We were going to save so much time with this thing. While the workers were harvesting barley, I noticed that the grass fields were ready to be mowed. I couldn't let them go to waste, so I attached the mowers to the Massey Ferguson, hired another worker and sent him to field 35 to start mowing. When he finished field 35, I sent him to field 34 and hired yet another worker to windrow the grass on field 35 with the Fiat tractor. It was chaos, workers everywhere, harvesters running, mowers cutting, grass being windrowed, but it was organized chaos. Back to the barley harvest, the Fendt harvester filled up its grain tank for the second time. That meant it was time to transport the first load to the new silo. 14,000 liters of barley, heading to its new home. Let's see how much we'd actually harvest, and more importantly, what we do with it all. The harvest continued. When the worker finished field 59, I immediately sent him to field 60. No breaks, no downtime. Meanwhile, over on field 76, we filled the semi-trailer with our first massive load. 59,400 liters of barley in one go. The harvesting continued for hours. Load after load, field after field. And finally, the last load of barley was transported to the new grain silo. The total? 303,529 liters of barley. That's not just a lot. That's an absolutely insane amount of barley. With the barley harvest complete, it was time to get back to the grass fields and build that windrowed grass into silage bales. But then I had to deal with the straw from the barley harvest. Mountains of it, scattered across every field. The problem? I only had round balers, which are great for grass but painfully slow for straw. So I made another investment, a square baler for $175,000. It would pay for itself in the time it saved. I got straight to work, baling the straw on field 76 first. I was halfway through field 61 when the game suddenly stopped me with a message. There are too many bales. Please sell some first. And it wasn't lying. There were bales everywhere. I had completely forgotten about the silage bales I had just made. I unloaded the remaining 2 bales from the square baler and rushed back to the store to buy a trailer that could hold square bales. Another $90,000 gone. But it was necessary. I loaded up the bales from field 76 and transported them to my bale storage unit back at the farm. That cleared enough space to continue the straw baling operation. When everything was finally finished, I had 111 straw bales sitting in the storage. Now, I'm not selling these now. The price of straw is at its lowest point. I am waiting until December when straw prices peak. But I'm not just going to sell them as is. I have a plan for these bales. With all the fields harvested and the straw baled, it was time to prep the fields for the next planting season. I hired a worker to start plowing, beginning with field 59. But while that was happening, it was time to execute my master plan for farmland 74, and finally put those 300,000 liters of barley to good use. My plan was simple but ambitious. I was going to turn farmland 74 into a dedicated chicken farm. I placed 9 chicken coops across the land and stocked them with a total of 3,240 chickens. This was going to be a massive operation. I wanted to place even more coops, but the game wouldn't let me. Maybe I should have made the fences bigger to allow for more chickens per coop. Might even sell the single chicken coop back at my main farm and move it here to maximize space. The egg production was about to skyrocket. This investment cost me $732,000. That's a lot of money, but I am confident we'll make it back fast once those chickens start producing eggs in bulk. With the chicken farm established, I headed back to the cement factory and sold all the cement bricks that had been produced. That brought in $43,000. But I wasn't done yet. I also sold my 12-month-old pigs for $86,250. And that is the complete journey. 5 years of farming from scratch in Farming Simulator 25. From absolutely nothing to a multi-million-dollar empire. But here is the real question. What do you want to see next? Should I push this save to 10 years and see just how massive this empire can become? Start completely fresh on a different map with new challenges? Or maybe try a themed series with specific restrictions? Drop your ideas in the comments below. If you enjoyed watching this journey, smash that like button. It genuinely helps more people discover these videos. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. YouTube is about to recommend another video you might like. Give it a watch and I'll catch you in the next one.